Someone asked me how to save and load binary data. I'm going to explain this to you. It's quite simple. First, you need to include fstream for file streams, or you can include stdio. This will allow you to use the objects and functions you need. To make sure this tutorial is useful to as many of you as possible, I have created a struct that contains the information we want to save and load. It would have been easier to use just a variable, but I'm quite sure this will be much more useful for this tutorial. I have created the struct data. It contains the variables integer I and float f. The names should be obvious. Inside the main function, I first create an instance of our struct data. I call it myData. I then set the members I and f to some useful values. Now myData contains the data we want to store. Now, to actually store this data, we create a pointer to an object of the type file. We call this one dat, as in .dat files. And we call the function fopen, file open, and supply two arguments. The first argument is the path to the file. This can be anything you want. Remember that the file extension is not important. You can call it wherever you want. You can create your own file types. The path can also include directories. And we supply a string containing flags that tells fopen what we're trying to do with this file. WB. The W stands for writing. The B stands for binary. Now to write to the file, we use fwrite, file write. And we will supply 4 arguments. The first argument is the address of the data you want to store. I have sent the address of myData. The next argument is the size in bytes of the type you want to store. The sizeOf operator will return the amount of bytes it takes to store an object of the type data, which should be 8 bytes if I'm not mistaken. 4 for an int and 4 for a float. The next argument is used for arrays. If myData was an array, you would supply the number of elements it contained. The last argument is the file, so we supply the file pointer. Next, we simply close the file using fclose, supplying the file pointer. In the next 2 lines, we reset the members in myData to 0. Now we use the file pointer again, and we call fopen to open the file again. We supply the file name, which of course must be the correct name. And then we supply the string RB. This means we will be using reading and binary, so we will read binary data. Next we use fread, file read, and we supply the same argument as in fwrite. The first argument is an address to an object where we want to store the data we read. Arguments 2, 3 and 4 are the same as in fwrite. This will cause us to read the binary data into myData. Then we close the file again. As you can see, this is very simple. Whatever variables you need to store, you can put in the data struct. And changing the struct data does not require you to change anything in these function calls. That concludes this tutorial.